Senegal's elections have been conducted and Macky Sall has left office, leaving behind a heaven of problems currently choking the life out of Senegal for the new Pastef regime to deal with. Here are the 7 most choking, pressing issues President Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko must fix as soon as possible to give the Senegalese people confidence in the Pastef regime. Make sure you stay till the end, as we have discovered something shocking regarding Senegal's oil and gas deal, and believe me, it will shock you and make you angry at the same time, even if you are not a Senegalese. If this doesn't make you mad, then nothing else will, so make sure you watch till the end. Let's dive right in. The first pressing issue on our list is illegal fishing in Senegalese waters. Illegal fishing has become rampant under the former regime. It was under Macky Sall that the European Union vessels were allowed to fish in Senegalese waters. China also took advantage of this and began exploiting Senegalese waters. Recent satellite data analysis conducted by environmental organizations suggests that up to 70% of fishing activity in Senegalese waters is carried out by illegal foreign trawlers, with Chinese vessels being among the most prominent offenders. This staggering figure underscores the scale of the problem and its devastating impact on local marine ecosystems. Illegal fishing practices, including overfishing and the use of destructive gear such as bottom trawlers, have led to a rapid depletion of fish stocks in Senegalese waters. According to a study published in Marine Policy, key fish populations have declined by over 80% in the past decade alone, threatening the food security and nutritional needs of millions of Senegalese people. The African Union estimates that Senegal loses approximately $300 million annually due to illegal fishing activities, significantly impacting the country's economy and exacerbating poverty in coastal regions. This loss includes revenue from fish exports, as well as the income of local fishermen, who are unable to compete with industrial-scale foreign trawlers. Research conducted by the Pew Charitable Trusts highlights the use of advanced technology by illegal fishing vessels, including Chinese ones, to evade detection and enforcement measures. This includes the manipulation of vessel identification systems and the use of destructive fishing methods such as bottom trawling, further exacerbating the ecological damage to marine habitats. New President Bassirou Diomaye Faye needs to look into this issue as swiftly as possible, as this is the main reason there has been a surge in the number of Senegalese fishermen leaving the country and taking the dangerous sea route to Europe, which often cost them their lives. The new Pastef regime needs to sort this out by making sure the Senegalese waters are free from foreign trawlers. This can be done by canceling any agreements Macky Sall had with the European Union or other countries that allowed them to fish in Senegalese waters in the first place. The second issue is the irregular migration crisis, commonly known as the back way to Europe. Addressing the drivers of irregular migration, including lack of opportunities, is essential, particularly among the youth population. Surprisingly, the majority of Senegalese migrants undertaking the journey to Europe are young people, often between the ages of 18 and 35. This demographic trend underscores the aspirations of Senegal's youth for better economic opportunities and a brighter future, despite the dangers inherent in irregular migration. The number of migrants leaving from Senegal on rickety wooden boats surged last year, and nearly 1,000 people died while trying to reach Spain by sea in the first 6 months of 2023, according to the Spanish migration advocacy group, Walking Borders. Factors such as youth unemployment, political unrest, and the impact of climate change push migrants to risk their lives on overcrowded boats. During the end of February, going into March, at least 24 people died off Senegal's northern coast and many were injured when their boat capsized, said officials, underscoring the danger of the route used by an increasing number of migrants seeking to reach Spain from West Africa. The boat was bound for Europe and capsized near the town of St. Louis, where bodies washed ashore Wednesday afternoon, and the fire department was alerted, said Alioune Badara Sambe, the local governor. The injured are being treated in a hospital in St. Louis, and an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the accident has been opened, he said. Migration to Europe is only a quarter of movement on the continent, but as the dead pile up in the seas, governments need to step up. This will be another headache for the Pastef ruling party, as the new presidents Faye and Sonko need to create something for the youths, something for them to hold on to in changing their lives for the good. This will encourage them to stay in the country and contribute to national development without having the mind to take the highly dangerous route to Europe by sea. This problem needs to be tackled as a matter of urgency, if not more Senegalese youths will lose their lives. The third choking issue is high public debt. Senegal's national debt is steadily rising fast year after year. This is going to be one of the things that will greatly challenge the new President Faye, with the country's large dependency on external debt surging in recent years. Senegal's national debt has experienced rapid growth in recent years, increasing by over 50% from $9.3 billion in 2015 to $14.1 billion in 2020, according to data from the World Bank's International Debt Statistics. Senegal's debt service costs have risen significantly in recent years, with debt servicing consuming a substantial portion of the government's budget. In 2020, debt servicing accounted for approximately 31% of total government revenue, posing challenges to fiscal sustainability and public investment according to the International Monetary Fund. Surprisingly, Senegal faces risks associated with hidden or undisclosed debt obligations. A recent audit conducted by the Senegalese government uncovered off-balance sheet debt amounting to $500 million, raising concerns about transparency and fiscal management as highlighted by Reuters. Public debt has been increasing at an accelerating rate, driven by shock mitigation measures and additional borrowing by state-owned enterprises to finance investments in the oil and gas sector. Public debt has been increasing significantly since 2019. It reached 69.1% of GDP in 2020, 73.3% in 2021 and 75% of GDP in 2022. A national debt of about 50% is not a problem, but when the debt-to-GDP ratio reaches somewhere around 80% to 90%, this is where it starts choking your country. Senegal's national debt is 75% of its GDP. This means that Faye will have only less than 25% of the national revenue to work with. This means that Faye needs to spend carefully and reasonably, if not, he will plunge the country into a choking debt crisis. This is a humble request to please like this video and subscribe to the African Pacific YouTube channel, a Gambian-owned channel looking into both the good and the bad happenings of the motherland that are often ignored by mainstream media. Please show your support by liking and subscribing. Thank you so much. The fourth pressing issue for the Pastef regime is endemic corruption. Corruption persists in various sectors, undermining public trust, hindering economic development, and exacerbating inequality. Surprisingly, a 2023 survey conducted by Transparency International revealed that over 60% of Senegal's youth population perceives corruption as a normal aspect of daily life within political and institutional frameworks. This startling acceptance of corruption among the younger generation highlights deep-seated societal norms that perpetuate corrupt practices. Despite efforts to combat corruption, Senegal's judicial system still faces significant challenges. According to a 2022 report by the World Bank, only 35% of Senegalese citizens express confidence in the transparency and integrity of their judicial system, indicating a widespread lack of trust in the efficacy of legal institutions. An investigation conducted by a local NGO in 2023 uncovered that over 70% of Senegal's political elite possess assets and wealth that are disproportionate to their known sources of income. This staggering statistic raises serious concerns about the integrity of political leaders and their potential involvement in corrupt practices, such as embezzlement and bribery. In 2022, it was reported that approximately 40% of public procurement contracts in Senegal are awarded through non-transparent processes, contributing to rampant corruption within government procurement practices. This alarming figure underscores the urgent need for reforms to enhance transparency and accountability in the allocation of public funds. Corruption continues to hinder Senegal's development efforts significantly. According to the African Development Bank, corruption siphons off an estimated 30% of government expenditure annually, depriving essential sectors such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure of much-needed resources. This diversion of funds underscores the detrimental effect of corruption on socio-economic progress and poverty alleviation initiatives in Senegal. Clearly, this will be another great challenge the new president will need to sort out, as he vowed to rule with complete transparency. The fifth issue choking Senegal is limited economic development and unemployment. Senegal faces challenges in sustaining economic growth and creating enough jobs for its growing population, particularly among youth. Currently, Senegal's economic sectors include mining, agriculture, tourism, fishing, and construction. The construction industry is booming, with the sector creating lots of job opportunities for the Senegalese people. Senegal's mining sector is mainly focused on gold, phosphate, and zircon. The country also has significant reserves of base metals such as iron, copper, and nickel, and has important limestone reserves. Agriculture is an important barometer of the economy, accounting for about 16% of GDP in 2020, and 60% of the workforce is engaged in food crop production. The tourist sector is the second source of income in Senegal after fishing. Fiscal incomes from tourism represent 4.5 to 5% of the total internal revenue of the country. The fishing industry in Senegal has seen a tremendous dip, with the Senegalese waters flooded with big fishing trawlers, most of whom are Chinese as they were allowed in under former President Macky Sall's regime. Due to this, locals don't usually get the juicy catch they used to get, forcing people to leave the sector. Economic growth decelerated in 2022 within a complex context characterized by strong inflationary pressures, rising global commodity prices, unfavorable rainfall patterns, and a global economic slowdown linked to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. After a strong recovery in growth in 2021 to 6.5% of GDP, real GDP growth slowed in 2022 to 4.2%, following a decline in private investment and exports, as well as a contraction in industrial production. Despite efforts to stimulate economic growth, Senegal continues to face high youth unemployment rates. As of 2021, the youth unemployment rate in Senegal was approximately 46.3%, among the highest in sub-Saharan Africa, as highlighted by the World Bank's World Development Indicators. Despite rising enrollment in tertiary education, many graduates in Senegal struggle to find suitable employment opportunities. It is estimated that around 30% of university graduates are underemployed, working in jobs that do not fully utilize their skills and qualifications, according to UNDP. Surprisingly, the underemployment rate among women in Senegal is significantly high, with approximately 77% of employed women working in vulnerable jobs, such as subsistence agriculture or informal trading, like tailoring, as per the International Labor Organization (ILO). This is a polite reminder to please like and subscribe to the African Pacific YouTube channel. Thank you so much. The sixth issue is security and terrorism. Senegal faces security challenges, including the threat of terrorism in the Sahel region, which requires ongoing efforts to ensure stability and protect citizens. The Sahel region, including countries like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, has witnessed a significant increase in terrorist activities in recent years. According to the United Nations Office for West Africa and the Sahel, UNOWAS, there was a 250% increase in terrorist attacks in the Sahel between 2018 and 2020, indicating a worrying escalation in security threats. The instability in the Sahel region poses a serious risk of terrorism spilling over into neighboring countries, including Senegal. The Global Terrorism Index reports that the spread of jihadist groups, such as Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, AQIM, and the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, ISGS, increases the likelihood of cross-border attacks and regional destabilization. The Movement of Democratic Forces of Casamance, MFDC, a separatist group operating in the Casamance region of Senegal, has been a persistent security threat for decades. The group has been responsible for sporadic acts of violence, including attacks on civilians and security forces. According to the International Crisis Group, the MFDC remains active despite peace talks and sporadically engages in clashes with government forces. There are concerns that the MFDC rebels could collaborate with jihadist groups operating in the Sahel, potentially amplifying security threats in Senegal. While there is limited evidence of direct cooperation, porous borders and shared grievances could facilitate alliances between disparate armed groups, as observed in other conflict-affected regions. The Senegalese government has implemented various security measures to counter the threat of terrorism and insurgency, including bolstering military capabilities and enhancing regional cooperation through initiatives like the G5 Sahel Joint Force. However, challenges such as porous borders, weak governance, and socio-economic disparities continue to hinder efforts to address the root causes of insecurity in the region. This is yet another great challenge for the Faye to deal with, and it is something that shouldn't be taken lightly, as ensuring complete security is key in every nation. If there is no security, there will be no development. Finally, the seventh or last issue is Senegal's terrible oil and gas contract. The anticipated delays in oil and gas production, now postponed again to 2024, have raised concerns. Delays are common in new oil and gas producers. A study by NRGI colleagues found that since 2000, new sub-Saharan African producers took 73% longer to move from discovery to production than initially projected. Sangomar and GTA, which initially targeted production starting in 2021, are now 3 years behind schedule. Cosmos is targeting the first gas from Yakar Teranga in 2027, but the likelihood of a 2027 start will partly depend on how quickly state-owned Petrosen and Cosmos finalize questions around the ownership structure, orientation of the project, for example, size, export versus domestic orientation, and financing. Despite this immense delay, someone is not waiting around as he wants to renegotiate the contract. Senegal's newly elected president Bassirou Diomaye Faye plans to review the contracts for oil and gas projects. But why would the new president want to do such a thing? Yes, this was the question that came to mind until I found out something shocking. Would you believe it to know that Senegal's stake in all these is just a mere 10%? Shocking, right? It makes people angry to know that they only own just 10% of oil and gas. Was these resources for the big multinationals? Or is just someone giving away Africa's resources just like that by failing to bargain a better deal for the Senegalese people? Comment down below. The reassessment of contracts with major industry players such as BP, Cosmos Energy, and Woodside Energy Group is aimed at enhancing the state's revenue from these ventures. This is important as it will boost the nation's revenue considering the nation's high debt restricting its expenditure. What do you think about this? Comment down below. This is the end of the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to African Pacific. Thanks for watching. Ramadan Mubarak.